such an honor and a privilege to be joined here tonight by a great president, a great statesman, a great supporter in our campaign to change America, Bill Clinton. Give it up. Nobody makes the case for change that works for the middle class like President Bill Clinton. Nobody. And while I'm at it, I also want to say just a little something about Senator Hillary Rodham Clinton. Because I learned from her and President Clinton as a candidate. I am proud to call them my friends. I know how much will mean both Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton in the months and years to come. Florida, I think you'll all agree with me that we all wish that the last 8 years looked a lot more like the Clinton years when he was in the White House. Now, before I move on, there are just a couple of other acknowledgments that I've got to make. First of all, one of the finest United States senators we have and one of the finest gentlemen that I know, not to mention he's an astronaut. I mean, it's cool being president, but being an astronaut, that's something else. So please give a big round of applause to your own Senator Bill Nelson and his wonderful wife, Grace Nelson. I haven't seen her, but I heard she was here, and I want to acknowledge her, your wonderful Congresswoman Corrine Brown. I want to thank State Representative Darren Soto, Olga Tanyon, Cheryl Green, and finally I want to say that before we came on, we had a chance to say hello to the most recent Democratic president, Jimmy Schmidt. Now, you know, when you listen to Bill Clinton, you are reminded of what it's like to have a president who is engaged, who's passionate, who's smart, who reaches out, who's inclusive instead of divisive, who has energy, who has vision. And you start getting kind of nostalgic about 22 million new jobs and a budget surplus and an economy that's working for everybody. And that's why we can't have 4 more years just like the last 8 that we've had. It's time for the kind of peace and prosperity that we saw in the 1990s. Now, I really just have 2 words for you tonight. 6 days. 6 days. After a decade of broken politics in Washington, after 8 years of failed policies by George W. Bush, after 21 months of a campaign that has taken us from the rocky shores of Maine to the sunshine of California, we are 6 days away from bringing about change in America. 6 days away. In 6 days, you can turn the page on policies that put greed and irresponsibility on Wall Street before the hard work and sacrifice of people on Main Street. In 6 days, you can choose policies that invest in our middle class and create new jobs and grow this economy from the bottom up, the way Bill Clinton was talking about, so that everyone has a chance to succeed, from the CEO to the secretary, from the factory owner to the people who are working on the factory floor. In 6 days, you can put an end to the politics that would divide this nation just to win an election, that tries to pit region against region, city against town, Republican against Democrat, that asks us to fear instead of hope. In 6 days, you can give this country the change we need. You know, we began this journey in the depths of winter 2 years ago on the steps of the old state capitol in Springfield, Illinois. And back then, we didn't have much money. We didn't have many endorsements. We weren't given much of a chance by the polls or the pundits. We knew that this would be a steep climb. But I also knew this. That's the same thing Bill Clinton understood when he ran as a little-known governor back in 1991. we both understood that there are times in our history where the size of our challenges outgrow the smallness of our politics. There are times where we have to recognize that Democrats and Republicans, Americans of every political stripe, are hungry for new ideas and new leadership and a new kind of politics. One that favors common sense over ideology. One that focuses on those values and ideals we hold in common as Americans. And most of all, I knew the American people. That you are decent and you are generous and you are hardworking. You're willing to sacrifice for future generations. And I was convinced that when we come together, our voices are more powerful than the most entrenched lobbyists or the most vicious political attacks or the full force of the status quo in Washington that wants to just keep things the way they are. 21 months later, my faith in the American people has been vindicated. That's how we've come so far and so close because of you. That's how we'll change this country with your help. And that's why we can't afford tonight or tomorrow or the next day. We can't afford to slow down or sit back or let up for 1 day, 1 minute, 1 second in the next week. Not now. Not when there's so much at stake. We're in the middle of the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. 760,000 workers have lost their jobs since the beginning of this year. Probably more have. We just haven't got the statistics for this month. Businesses and families, they can't get credit. Home values are falling. Pensions are disappearing. Wages, they're lower than they've been in a decade. At a time when the cost of health care and college have never been higher. You heard what Bill Clinton said. When he was president, the average family income went up $7,500. Went up across the board. Everybody, all groups, did better. Since George Bush has been in office, the average family income has gone down $2,000. Which means that it's getting harder and harder to make the mortgage, or fill up the gas tank, or even keep the electricity on. At moments like this, the last thing we can afford is 4 more years of the same tired old economic theories that say we should give more and more to millionaires and billionaires and big corporations and hope that prosperity just automatically trickles down on everybody else. The last thing we need is 4 more years of no regulation on Wall Street and in the financial sector because politicians and lobbyists kill common sense regulation. Those are the theories of the past. Those are the theories that got us into this mess. They haven't worked. It's time for a change, Florida, and that's why I'm running for President of the United States of America. Now, I think President